Okay, moving on with the review to the sections on fractions. In fractions, we call, like this is a fraction, 3/7. The 3 is called the numerator, and the 7 is called the denominator. This tells you how many you have. You've got 3, and 3 what's? 3/7. Right. So when we talk about pies, if you've got a pie, you've cut it up into 7 pieces, which is terrible to draw. 7 pieces, what would that look like? 1, 2, this isn't exactly fair. And it's not even 7. So 7 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, 7 pieces. And we have 3 of them. 3/7. Okay, numerator, denominator. We call some fractions improper fractions. An example of that is 8/3. It is improper because it hasn't been, like, we don't like it in this form. Like if you were given an answer, you wouldn't want to leave this like that, because there's whole numbers in there. Like you can take a whole pie out and use the fraction only to describe the little pieces that you have left. There is actually 6/3 in here. 6/3 is 2, so there's 2 whole ones, and then we have 2/3 left. So this would be 2 whole pies and then 2/3 of a pie. This is much easier to imagine than this. Okay, a mixed number is a number like this, 2 and 2/3. This is mixed. Oh, this is the answer to what we just did. A mixed number means there's whole ones and there's a part that's a fraction. This is really one number, but it's expressed partly by the 2, saying we have 2 whole ones, plus the part that is the fraction, 2/3. This is a mixed number. This is an improper fraction. We need our numbers to be in this shape or in this shape, depending on what we're trying to do with the number. Okay. Another thing we do a lot with fractions is they'll ask you to simplify a fraction. This fraction is not in its simplest form. It's 6/8. And we could express that more simple because they have a common factor, which is 2. If we divide both top and bottom by 2, we would get 6 divided by 2 is 3, 8 divided by 2 is 4, 3/4. This is the same, this is worth the same. This is this fraction simplified. This is the simplified version that we prefer when they're asking for an answer. Okay, what do we do when we add or subtract fractions? When you look at this problem, you'll notice, I can add 1 to 2, but how do I add 2/5 to 3/4, right? In order to add or subtract fractions, we need the denominators to be the same. We can't add 4ths to 5ths because they're totally different sizes of pieces of pie. We want to make them have the same denominators. Okay, so we look for the lowest common multiple between 4 and 5. 20, 4 goes into 20 and 5 goes into 20. So let's change them to 20ths, right? The 2 stays. How many 20th is this? We multiplied the bottom by 5 to get 20, so we do the same to the top. We multiply 3 by 5, which is 15. The bottom by 5 is 20. Let's make 20ths out of that as well. The 1 is just a 1. To get to 20, we multiplied this by 4, right? 5 times 4 is 20. So we do the same to the top. 2 times 4 is 8. And now we can just simply add 2 and 1 is 3 whole ones, 15 twentieths and 8 twentieths added together. 15 plus 8 is 23 twentieths. As you can see, this is now an improper fraction, right? Because we can take 20 twentieths out and that'll be another whole one. So we don't have 3 whole ones, but we have another one. So we got 4. We took 20 twentieths out, so we have 3 twentieths left, and that would be our answer. Okay, when we subtract, it's the same thing. You change them to numbers that have the same denominator, and then you subtract them. Not going to go into that. Okay, what about multiplying and dividing fractions? When we multiply two fractions that have, first we want to change them to improper fractions. Improper fractions, there is no whole ones named. It's all, the whole number is inside the fraction. So we want this 2 1/5 to be an improper fraction, and we want this piece to be an improper fraction. So if we make this whole thing, turn this whole thing into fifths, 2 whole ones is 10/5, right? Plus the 1/5 that we already had. That's going to be 11/5, right? We're multiplying by 1 3/4. Let's change this whole thing into only quarters. 1 is how many quarters? 4 quarters. That's the 1. Then we have 3 quarters. So how many quarters do we have? 4 and 3, so we have 7 quarters, or fourths, right? So this is our new multiplication. Now the denominators are not the same, but in multiplication that doesn't make a difference. We can leave it like this, because when we multiply fractions, we just multiply across. We multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. So 11 times 7 is 77. 5 times 4 is 20. That is our answer. This answer is an improper fraction, so we want to take out the whole ones. How many whole ones are in there? 77 twentieths is actually 60 twentieths plus 17 twentieths, right? 60 plus 17 is 77. So these 60 twentieths are 3 whole ones, right? And then we have the 17 twentieths. So we've now changed the improper fraction to a mixed number. We can't simplify it any further, so this one's done, right? Dividing works pretty much the same way, especially the first step. The first step is the same. We want the numbers to be improper fractions. So they're mixed numbers now. We want to change them to improper fractions. 3 1/3, how many thirds is that in total? Well, 3 whole ones is actually 9 thirds, right? 9 divided by 3 is 3. So, yes. And then we have the 1/3. So how many thirds do we have? We have 9 plus 1, we have 10 thirds. Yes? Divided by this one, 3 1/2. How many halves do we have? 3 whole ones is 6 halves, right? 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 6 halves plus the 1/2. It's actually 7 halves. All right? Okay, now, dividing by a fraction, what we do is we take the same number, 10 thirds, we multiply by the inverse of this fraction. So instead of saying we're dividing by 7 halves, we're now multiplying by 2 sevenths. We flipped the fraction. Now we multiply across, just like we did here. So 10 times 2 is 20. 3 times 7 is 21. What do we have here? Is this an improper fraction? Can we take whole ones out? No, we can't. We would need at least 21 over 21. We have less, this is less than 1, right? Can we simplify any further? No, we don't find any common factors in these two numbers, so this one's done. All right.